The current state of the music industry, the truth of it, of which I think there are many, as you guys all well know. Mm-hmm. Neo, I wanted to start with you. You have the most experience of anyone on stage right now in this industry. Can you tell us a little bit about where you began, your first kind of run-in with the capital B business?
Absolutely. Well, I started on the songwriting side of things, you know, writing for different artists, the guy behind the guy, so to speak. Decided to try it for myself. Got signed to Def Jam Records. Put out about how many albums have I put out now? I think about 7 at this point. And yeah, when I first got into the industry, there was no. It was a lot harder to get your music heard. It was a lot harder to get people to pay attention than it is now. It was a lot easier to get paid. I'll say that. But yeah, it was definitely a different industry when I got in, and now it's now that the industry has become what it is, I kind of feel like a freshman again. You know, I kind of feel like I'm trying to figure out the best way to get my stuff to everybody, and then on top of that, the best way to get properly compensated for it, which seems to be the biggest issue as of right now. It's like, you know, the way that people consume their music has evolved, music itself has evolved, but the laws regarding compensation for music have not. They're still 100 years old, you know, so that's kind of the issue at hand.
When did you?
Where the whole thing's set up to be rapacious and take advantage of your weakness. If you get success and you have leverage, they'll get out of your way because you're making them a lot of money. But the minute you're not making them as much money, then they step in and they start playing these Jedi mind tricks on you. We know what to do. You know, the public's going to forget about you. I mean, I've heard all these things. Like, you know, this kind of weird, like, yeah, you're in the room, but, you know, we're the arbiter of whether you can stay in the room. They do these 360 deals where it's like, right. If you get a perfume deal, if you, like your whole world,
they own you.
We own a piece of your whole world. And fame is such a great quotient in American life now that you can see where kids would trade fame and be willing to give away like the profit part. Look no further than the deals that the record labels cut with the streaming services. They got into ownership equity deals with the streaming services. In an arrangement for them to have an equity position, they agreed to very low rates for the artist's music. But as Spotify and the other streaming services raise up in their equity position, the labels benefit. So the labels pimped out their own artist to take a greater equity position in a rising business.
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives. And he's saying, well, we can't take a chance on this because it's just simply, that's not what the kids really want, and I know. You know, and they got that attitude. And the day you get rid of that attitude and get back to, who knows? Take a chance, you know, that entrepreneurial spirit where even if you don't like or understand what the record is that's coming in the door, the person who is in the executive chair may not be the final arbiter of taste of the entire population.
I don't know if most people have seen long-form contracts. They're insane, and there's all these little things thrown in. It's kind of like legislating, you know, legislature for a government. They put up this big issue, but underneath that issue, there's like 17 other little laws that they threw in that they're not talking about. So when you say yes to this one thing, you're actually saying yes to like 45 other things.
There's a worse one. They used to have damage fees with digital downloads. Digital downloads, like at first they were doing that, like they just trying to get away with murder, you know, just like, let's leave it in there, let's see if the lawyer sees it kind of thing.
Yeah, Metallica is a big exception.
But a lot of metal bands you've heard of that you consider very successful metal bands are in situations where they need to diversify. I think the idea that we all had as kids, we're going to make it, and our one band that we're in is going to make us all this money and be our sole source of income. I think that's gone for the most part, unless you're very, very lucky. That's not the case anymore.
For younger bands,